Alright, we're doing this, let's go. It's 1933, and you've just seen films just like Charlie Chaplin's City Lights and All Quiet on the Western Front. You've seen romances, war epics, gangsters and comedians entertaining you on the big screen. But on March 22nd, you see a film that does not just bring in a different genre, but how films are made. There are lines of people queuing around the block to see it. And then it starts, and you see what people were talking about. Now, admittedly, the effects are dated, but no one had seen effects like this in a movie until now, and it is mavericks such as those who worked on King Kong who will push the limits of technology to achieve the stories they want to tell. Merian C. Cooper, a movie producer, ex-pilot and explorer, and his best mate Ernest B. Schoedsack, a cinematographer, were deeply interested in the natural world and made documentaries on the mountains of Persia to the jungles of the Siam. Cooper had a fascination for gorillas, and with most great ideas had a spontaneous thought. He had the vision of a giant gorilla on top of the Empire State Building fighting planes, and so was the antithesis of the idea for a film, King Kong. But how were they supposed to make a film about a 30-foot tall ape when no ape is anywhere near that size? And how could they film a fight on top of the Empire State Building spire? Stop-motion artist Willis O'Brien had recently finished a film called The Lost World, which used stop-motion animation to bring dinosaurs to life. In stop-motion, you create 24 increments of movement per second to bring anything you want to life. A labour-intensive process, but with patience, the result is being able to bring anything to life. With Willis O'Brien's speciality in the art form, and being able to create realistic puppets that could be animated, he was brought onto the production. The King Kong and dinosaur puppets in the film were made with metal amateurs, covered in rubber that could be posed, with King Kong's fur being a rabbit hide. 2 identical 18-inch models of Kong were made, and a 24-inch model for the scenes in Manhattan to make him appear more imposing in the city. They even simulated Kong having breath by having air supplied from football bladders. For close-ups of Kong, a huge mechanical bust of Kong was created and was operated by 3 men who controlled the facial expressions. However, the true magic of King Kong is how they put live-action elements in the same frame as stop-motion elements. And they even invented a new technique to achieve some of these shots called the Williams process. Now, this process used an optical printer, a projector and a camera, all played in sync so that everything's combined into one image on film. It was essentially a green screen before green screen. Another way they combined both live action and stop motion elements was rear projection, a technique that was often used in the golden age of Hollywood. They projected a stop-motion recording onto a translucent screen from behind and had the actors play out a scene in front of the projector. And one advantage of this technique, in fact, is that, unlike green screen, actors actually saw what they were meant to be reacting to in real time, such as the scene where they threw a grenade at a stegosaurus, which they could time perfectly with the explosion on the projector. Miniature projection was the reverse of rear projection, as it put live-action elements into the stop-motion sets. A tiny projection was built into the stop-motion set where live-action actors were projected from the back. Since the stop-motion consists of pictures, each frame of the live-action film was screened on the mini projector. This way, when played, both live-action and stop-motion elements are occurring smoothly and naturally in the same shot. The room got so hot that they had to have fans all over just to prevent the lights and projector from overheating. Another projection technique was also used for Kong if the dinosaurs walked behind the projection of the actors. The projector was turned to the side and a mirror was placed diagonally across from it. This projected the same image on the projector from the back and allowed Kong to get behind the projector without getting in the way of the actual projector and creating a shadow on the set. All these effects were great on their own, but what was even more intricate is that they combined all these effects in a single shot for some scenes. The scene where Kong takes Andaro out of the building used rear projection of stop motion, then moved a giant robotic hand in through the window all in one shot. The space battles in Star Wars were inspired by World War II footage of dogfights. They achieved these visuals through the technique of compositing, but in a way that had not been done before. See, you have to understand that before Star Wars, science fiction films and the spaceships were slow. The ships in Star Wars needed to be fast and have kineticism. George Lucas founded ILM just to have a studio and team of people purely focused on special effects for the film to achieve his vision. Compositing before Star Wars had to be a stationary shot, as he had to align each shot perfectly to combine a background and foreground shot. To get tracking shots of the models flying, the team created the first motion-controlled camera called the Dijkstraflex, named after its inventor John Dijkstra. The Dijkstraflex allowed the effects artists to program camera movements that can be repeated flawlessly, again and again with precision. It weighed 1,500 pounds and was essentially a very primitive computer. The space fights required patience, precision and months to produce, as they would have to film the models and then the backgrounds, and then composite these shots together to combine them. Some shots in the Star Wars movies included as many as 63 film elements composited together. How they composited shots together is that they utilised the key element of film. Colour film is made up of 3 emulsion layers, red, green and blue, and they use a technique called blue screen in which a subject would be filmed in front of a blue backdrop and a background filmed as well. After this, the special effects technicians would mask out the blue, make positive and negative transparencies, physically overlay the strips and project them onto fresh film to combine into one composite. To ensure each shot was aligned perfectly, they used an optical printer, which was an impressive but time-consuming machine that used projectors to shine multiple images onto a single piece of film. Having a machine to help in the process ensured no misalignment would happen that would reveal black lines where the film is not exposed. The invention of the Dijkstraflex and optical printer ushered in a new era of composited spectacles in cinema that we see continued through to today. One side note on Star Wars as well is its amazing use of matte paintings. The matte paintings throughout the film help achieve some shots that would be ridiculously expensive or impossible to achieve, expanding the built sets to make them appear massive and create worlds totally different to those on Earth. The matte painting artists had to copy the perspective of the camera, the lighting and colours perfectly in order to sell the effect, and was used throughout the trilogy. The movie that profoundly changed visual effects was Terminator 2: Judgment Day. Computer-generated images had been around for over a decade by this point, but no movie could make convincingly realistic CGI until this one. New software was developed to achieve effects such as the shots in which the T-1000 is morphing, and fluid animations were also used, like when the Terminator comes out from the floor. They would also match the lighting of a scene on the T-1000 when he was fully chrome, reflecting the environment on him. When he heals himself, they warped his body and animated the bullet holes to close, something you can see visually on screen. These CGI shots took ages to render back in 1991, but the results were worth it and unseen in any film up until this point, revolutionising how effects were crafted, and more films such as Jurassic Park would use CGI from this point forward. We've looked at 3 movies that helped absolutely revolutionise cinema with their effects. And one takeaway I would say we could take from all of these movies: they all had people that wanted to change the game. They created new techniques, utilised up-and-coming technologies to bring us movies with more spectacle, with stories that could never have been told before that point, and have helped bring a point more and more movies that can now tell these stories